And Mary answers, "Let it be done to me according to your rhema." Now, usually the translators say, "But in the mouth of the angel, for no thing is impossible with God." And Mary answers, "Let it be done to me according to your word." And so there's no connection. But if the angel says, "For no word of God is impossible with him," Mary answers, "Let it be done to me according to your word." And what happened? The word of God became flesh. What a beautiful thing that the Greek language loves to bring out, which is lost in most of the translations. And so we see that private revelations bring a particular truth in focus at a particular time when there's a particular need in the church and in the world. When Cardinal Ratzinger wrote a discussion on private revelations at the end of the Vatican's disclosure of the third secret of Fatima, he wrote this: "We might add that private revelations often spring from popular piety and leave their stamp on it, giving it a new impulse and opening the way for new forms of it. Nor does this exclude that they will have an effect even on the liturgy, as we see, for instance, in the feasts of Corpus Christi and of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. From one point of view, the relationship between revelation and private revelations appears in the relationship between the liturgy and popular piety. The liturgy is the criterion. It is the living form of the church as a whole, fed directly by the gospel. Popular piety is a sign that the faith is spreading its roots into the heart of a people in such a way that it reaches into daily life. Popular religiosity is the first and fundamental mode of inculturation of the faith, while it must always take its lead and direction from the liturgy. It, in turn, enriches the faith by involving the heart. And so, in one of his Wednesday talks during the audience, Pope Benedict spoke about Saint Juliana of Cornillon from Belgium, who had the revelations concerning the institution of the Feast of Corpus Christi. About her, Pope Benedict stated, "She contributed to the institution of one of the most important liturgical solemnities of the year, that of Corpus Christi." And then he said, Pope Urban IV instituted the solemnity of Corpus Domini as a feast of obligation for the universal church. In the bulla of institution, he re-evoked with discretion the mystical experiences of Juliana, giving value to their authenticity. This is a very interesting observation, for I believe it can also apply to the impact of the church, on the church, of St. Faustina's revelations concerning the Feast of Mercy, which revelations have the church's formal approval. Now, it's interesting too that in the book where a German journalist gave the Holy Father many questions to which the Holy Father gave immediate answers without knowing ahead of time what the questions would be. In response to one other question from the German journalist regarding discrimination against women in the church, the Holy Father replied, "Incidentally, women have so many great and meaningful functions in the church that there can be no question of discrimination. That would be the case if the priesthood were a sort of dominion, whereas it is actually intended to be pure service. If you look at the history of the church, women, from Mary to Monica and all the way down to Mother Teresa, have so eminent a significance that in many respects they shape the image of the church more than men do." And then he said, "Just think of the major Catholic feast days, such as Corpus Christi or Mercy Sunday, which originated with women." So the Holy Father, Pope Benedict, ranks the feasts like Corpus Christi, which he called one of the most important liturgical solemnities of the year. He ranks as a major Catholic feast day along with Mercy Sunday. Now, what's important for us to understand fully is this. The Lord gave Sister Faustina a particular prayer. He said, "Speak, my daughter, that I am love and mercy personified." On an earlier occasion, he taught her a prayer in which he regards as identical with his person the blood and water which gushed forth from his heart when it was pierced by a lance on the cross. The prayer is, "O blood and water which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fount of mercy for us, I trust in you." Now, when this was translated into many languages from the Polish, many people complained that the translators don't know the grammar, because you address blood and water. But that last "you," I trust in you, in the Polish is singular, and therefore it refers to Jesus under the metaphors of blood and water, which then stand for his personal sacrifice as a priest, which gained our salvation. And we will explain how this is connected with the image of divine mercy when we speak about the image. So it becomes obvious that the Feast of Mercy, on which the Lord insisted repeatedly, is not the celebration of the supreme divine attribute. The Lord calls it that, and St. Thomas in his Summa calls it the supreme divine attribute. But it is not the celebration of the supreme attribute, but the act of latria, worship due to the true God, is directed to the person of Jesus, the incarnation of God's inmost essence, love and mercy. The Lord, full of pity and merciful, long-suffering and very compassionate. That's the very name that God identified himself with when Moses asked him what his name is. So then, Jesus, in this image, as we will see, is represented as what we read in the Apocalypse, the book of Revelation, where we see standing before the throne the Lamb as though he were slain. But he is standing, he is risen, though he was slain. And this is basically what the image is. But also, as we will see, it has a reference to the Ark of the Covenant with the throne of mercy, which is the cover on that ark. Now, why should we make such an emphasis on the celebration of the Feast of Mercy? I was looking for 30 years or more for all kinds of clues that would show me what is the major reason that Jesus chose the first Sunday after Easter, namely the octave of Easter, as the Feast of Divine Mercy. And after a long search, I was given the best clue by a book written by Jean d'Arnilou, who later was created a cardinal. And the name of the book is The Bible and the Liturgy. And he dedicates, I believe, 3 chapters to the octave. But when the book was published by Notre Dame University on June the 6th in 1956, the English translation of the book from French, Father Michael Mathis of the Congregation of the Holy Cross said of this precious work of the later Cardinal Jean d'Arnilou of the Society of Jesus. He wrote these notes, which then are reproduced on the back cover of the book. He says, the rites of the Church and the greater feasts of her liturgical year were intended to be an unfailing means, not only for transmitting the grace of the sacraments, but also for instructing the faithful in their meaning and in the meaning of the whole Christian life. During the last centuries, however, the faithful had too seldom taken proper advantage of this primal source of Christian initiation and growth. The reason is that they have lost familiarity both with the scriptural types and figures required for doing so, and with these scriptural types and with the significance given to these types and figures by Christ himself, by the apostles, and by the fathers. Too often, in fact, rites and feasts have come to be treated like sacred but mysterious heirlooms, having no vital meaning for ordinary Christians today, since they do their work anyway, whether they are fully understood or not. That's the ex opere operato. It is to remedy, if only in part, this most unfortunate, not to say deplorable situation, that Father d'Arnilou has written the present work, taking advantage of the findings of modern scholarship